A few weeks ago, a new client sent me his portfolio to review. After 20 years as a financial advisor, first at UBS and now running my own firm here in Australia, trust me, I've seen a lot of portfolios. But it's rare that one genuinely stops me. But this one did. He owned 14 ETFs. VAS, A200, IOZ and VHY were all sitting side by side. He had 3 global funds holding many of the same large US technology companies, 2 emerging markets ETFs with almost identical underlying holdings, and several thematic funds added at the end with no clear purpose. He thought he was diversified. In reality, he had built a portfolio full of duplication, unnecessary complexity, and overlapping fees. The problem was not simply that he owned 14 ETFs. The problem was that most of them were doing the same job, while the riskier funds around the edges of the portfolio had no clearly defined job at all. And that is why the common advice to only own 3 to 5 ETFs is only half correct. For the core of a portfolio, the stable 70 to 90% designed to provide broad market exposure and compound over the long term, 3 to 5 ETFs may be more than enough. In some cases, a single diversified ETF may be enough. But even broad diversified ETFs can leave certain sectors, regions, or investment themes underrepresented. That is why I strongly recommend having a smaller satellite portion of your portfolio. That may include themes like AI, robotics, Asia, etc. Because carefully selected satellite ETFs can fill these gaps, improve diversification, or provide targeted exposure. But every fund must have a clear purpose. Otherwise, adding more ETFs simply creates more overlap and complexity. So the right number of ETFs could be 1, it could be 3 to 5, or in some circumstances, it could be more than 10. The number itself is not what matters. What matters is whether every ETF performs a distinct and necessary role within your portfolio. So in this video, I'll show you how to recognize fake diversification, when one ETF may be enough for your core, and how to determine the right number of ETFs for your individual situation. Let's get into it. Part 1, more ETFs do not mean more diversification. Now here's Australia's 10 largest ETFs, and these hold around 105 billion between them, which is approximately 31% of the entire Australian ETF market. Now consider 4 popular Australian share funds: VAS, A200, IOZ, and VHY. Their fact sheets list roughly 770 holdings when added together. That sounds highly diversified until you realise the total counts the same companies several times. CBA, BHP, NAB, Westpac, ANZ, Macquarie, and Rio Tinto appear in all 4 funds. The big 4 banks alone account for roughly 22 to 30% of every one of them. The overlap data makes the problem even clearer. A200 has approximately 99% overlap with VAS. IOZ has around 97% overlap with VAS, and VHY is largely a dividend-screened subset of the same Australian market. And the same thing occurs with international ETFs too. IVV is already 70% plus VGS, and most of NDQ's 100 stocks are inside VGS. So an investor holding VAS, A200, and IOZ hasn't built 3 separate Australian portfolios. They have bought many of the same banks and miners through 3 wrappers, with 3 fee schedules, more brokerage, and more tax paperwork. And it reveals one of the most important distinctions in this entire video. Fund diversification is not the same as underlying diversification. Fund diversification means you own several ticker symbols. Underlying diversification means that assets inside those funds are genuinely different. They operate in different industries and countries, respond to different economic conditions, and do not all rise and fall for the exact same reasons. Only the second type can materially change the risk structure of your portfolio with diversification. So what does real diversification look like? VAS alone holds around 300 Australian companies. Add VGS and the portfolio expands to around 1,800 companies across Australia and 23 developed international markets. Add an emerging markets fund such as VGE and it moves beyond 5,000 companies across more than 50 countries. The first move from 1 to 3 complementary funds creates an enormous jump in diversification. From 3 to 5, the benefit starts flattening. By the 6th, 7th, or 8th broad market fund, you are mostly rearranging companies you already own while adding more administration. But what if you could be properly diversified with even less ETFs? Part 2, the one fund core versus building it yourself. Diversified all-in-one ETFs place an entire core portfolio inside one ticker. They can hold Australian shares, international developed markets, emerging markets, and depending on the fund, some bonds. They also rebalance automatically. 3 main options are DHHF, which is 100% growth, VDHG, which is 90% growth and 10% defensive assets, and VDGR, which is 70% growth and 30% defensive assets. Over the 5 years in this comparison, DHHF returned 57.3%, the strongest result among the diversified all-in-one ETFs on the ASX. Over the 12 months to May 2026, DHHF returned 13.2%, VDHG returned 12%, and VDGR returned 9.8%. DHHF led because it held no bonds during the period when equities outperformed. VDGR's Vanguard's larger defensive allocation reduced its return, but that allocation is designed to cushion a portfolio when shares fall. The right fund is the one that matches the volatility you can actually tolerate, not simply the one that won last year. The alternative is to build the core yourself. The 5-fund example in this comparison holds 45% BGBL for global developed shares, 30% A200 for Australian shares, 10% VGE for emerging markets, 10% NDQ for an additional US growth tilt, and 5% VAF for Australian bonds. That portfolio returned approximately 14.6% over the same year, around 1.4 percentage points more than DHHF. The advantage came from slightly lower blended fees, control over the allocations, and especially the NDQ position, which returned 28.4%. But that tilt would not outperform every year. The trade-off is simple. One all-in-one ETF gives you one ticker and automatic rebalancing. A 3 to 5 fund core gives you more control and potentially lower fees, but also more distributions, tax records, and rebalancing decisions. Either approach works. What does not work is owning 4 versions of essentially the same index. And notice after all the fine tuning, the gap between DHHF and the 5-fund core portfolio was only 1.4 percentage points. For many investors, DHHF's simplicity is worth the 1 to 2 points. But there's still sectors that are missing or underrepresented in DHHF, leading us to part 3, where adding more ETFs can help. The diminishing returns problem mainly affects the core because broad market ETFs keep fishing from the same ponds. The ASX 200, MSCI World, and S&P 500. A genuine satellite ETF can access a different pond entirely. An investor holding VAS and VGS or simply DHHF owns thousands of companies, but they still have little meaningful exposure to hydrogen, pure play semiconductors, energy transition metals, or robotics. Nobody in Australia is really talking about these, and if you want to be one of the first to know which of these themes are set to move from base to trend, sign up for a free trial of our newsletter with the link below. Now, these themes can respond to different forces from Australian banks and US mega cap technology. That is why a satellite sleeve of 5 to 10 genuinely different positions can continue adding new exposure even after the core is complete. But the trade-off is real. Satellite ETFs are typically narrower, more volatile, and more expensive, often charging around 0.45% to 0.7% per year. That is why they are normally held as smaller positions, often 2 to 5% each, inside a satellite sleeve representing only 10 to 30% of your total portfolio. And the ETF label is still not enough. A robotics ETF and an artificial intelligence ETF may hold many of the same companies. A clean energy fund and an energy transition fund may also overlap. Every satellite still needs to be checked against what you already own. The 12 months to 30th of May 2026 shows just how differently these themes can perform. Part 4, the $36,000 difference. The 10 best performing satellite ETFs over that period produced extraordinary returns. IKO, covering South Korean equities, returned 206%. HGen, covering hydrogen, returned 187.3%, and so on. Equal weighted across all 10, that satellite portfolio returned 124.4%. Now, the critical caveat, nobody could have selected those 10 winners in advance. This is a hindsight perfect portfolio showing the upper boundary of what the satellite universe produced in an exceptional year. It is not an expected return and nobody should build a financial plan around it. What it does show is where the performance differences were. VAS returned 11.1%, DHHF returned 13.2%, the 5-fund corp returned 14.6%. All three were separated by only a few percentage points. Now assume a 70% core and a 30% satellite split, with satellite divided equally across those 10 hindsight winners, 3% of the total portfolio in each. 70% DHHF plus the satellite returned approximately 46.6%. 70% in the 5-fund core fund plus the satellite returned 47.5%. On a $100,000 starting portfolio, the gap between VAS alone and the strongest hindsight portfolio was around $36,000 in 1 year. Almost all of that gap came from the satellite. Choosing between the two diversified cores changed the result by around 1.4 percentage points. The satellite changed it by more than 30. Again, that does not mean everyone could have captured the full result. It means the greatest opportunity and the greatest selection risk sat outside the core. At ETFadviser, our long-term targets are far more modest. 8% per year for the core and 10% or more for the satellite over full market cycles. At the moment, our model portfolio is up 11.06% compared to the ASX, which is only up 8.01% since June 2025. If you want access to the model portfolio for returns like this, sign up for a free trial to our newsletter with the link below. Now, if a disciplined satellite process captured only 1/4 of the 124.4% hindsight result, the satellite would return around 31%. Combined with the 14.6% 5-fund core in a 70-30 portfolio, the total return would be approximately 19.5%. That would still be a meaningful improvement on the 13.2% from DHHF alone. But selecting even 1/4 of the available upside is much harder than the finished performance table makes it look. Part 5, why executing the satellite is hard. There are more than 490 ETFs listed on the ASX, with new funds launching and themes rotating constantly. Choosing which 5 to 10 deserve a place is a serious research problem. Entry timing also matters far more than it does for broad market core. With a core, holding for the long term is normally the plan. A concentrated thematic ETF can produce a completely different result depending on where you enter its cycle. You also need to know when to leave. Themes run, peak and correct. Some form a new base and begin another trend. Others fade for years. This is why ETFadviser uses a base and trend framework. We filter the ETF universe, look for funds moving from consolidation into a confirmed uptrend, enter with a defined stop, and exit when the trend breaks. Click the video in the right corner to learn how we do this in more detail. But without a repeatable process, investors often buy only after a theme dominates the news and then sell during the first frightening correction. That is performance chasing, not a satellite strategy. Part 6. So how many ETFs should you actually own? For a fully passive investor, one diversified all-in-one ETF may be enough. If you want more control, 3 to 5 complementary broad market ETFs can build the core. Beyond that, additional broad market funds usually add overlap rather than diversification. For potentially higher returns, use a core and satellite structure. The total can be higher, 1 to 5 core funds plus 5 to 10 smaller satellite positions. That could mean roughly 6 to 15 ETFs in total. But 6 to 15 is not a target. Every fund must justify its place. Before adding an ETF, ask what it gives you that you do not already own, how much it overlaps with your existing holdings, and if it belongs in the satellite, what your rules are for entering and exiting. Portfolio structure matters more than the number of ticker codes. 2 complementary ETFs can provide more genuine diversification than 10 overlapping ones. Build the core first, keep it simple enough to hold through a difficult market. Then, if you have the time, interest, and risk tolerance, use a smaller satellite sleeve to access opportunities the core misses. That is how you build a portfolio with intention instead of simply collecting ETFs.